Good afternoon, everyone. Today we're going to be having a webinar hosted by Shubhi Tamakar for What's New in CA ERwin 7.3. For more maximum data modeling with CA ERwin, this is part of our 7.3 webinar series. So today, quickly, our agenda is going to be going over who Programmer's Paradise is. Shubhi is going to be going over the CA ERwin modeling suite. She's going to be going over in detail what's new in the new version. And after that, we're going to be doing Shubhi's going to be doing a demo, and she's going to be answering some questions. Programmer's Paradise is a leading e-seller of developer and infrastructure tools. We are an elite CA partner. We're the #1 data modeling researcher for CA. We have here a dedicated CA sales team and an engineering team. We have DB modeling and infrastructure design and training services. We are a leader in CA in the delivery of CA education. We have here at Programmers, we go by a worldview software ecosystem. We have industry-leading tools for your end-to-end database needs, as database platforming, design, modeling, development, and test, and so forth. And with that, we're going to be handing it over to Shubhi for her presentation.
Thank you. Let me share my desktop so as I start speaking about my data tool, I can go in and share it with everybody. Okay, that's not what I wanted to do. So let me go back to my slides. Give me 30 seconds. All right, thanks. Good afternoon, everyone, and I hope you're having as bright a day as I am having in Boston. If not, it's tomorrow probably. All right, let me start with this important slide. I like to put things in context every time. I will get to ERwin 7.3 quickly and show you all the new things that we have, but it's important to see why we are making those changes in the tool. Right in the middle, you have the ERwin Data Modeler. And those of you who have taken any demos from me, you know that I do like to spend a few minutes on this. Again, like I said, right in the middle is the Data Modeler. And as you can see, it talks to everything else. Why? Because at the end of the day, data is important, data design is important, but you also want to make sure that you're collecting the right data from the right place, as in your process is good. You have validated that data model for normalization errors. You have also gone in and saved that model someplace. Whether you're doing master data management, metadata management, your data warehouse, your data marts, or just your day-to-day ODSs, it is important to have a good data model that has all the metadata, not just the graphics with relationship lines. They can only take you so much. It happens all the time. You're sitting there, you're reviewing a model, you ask somebody a question, and the first thing they want to do is call somebody or ask someone, and lucky you, that person's on vacation. So the information is lost. So what I'm trying to tell you here is use the tool to its maximum capacity. Make sure that you add all of that metadata. At the bottom here is the ERwin Model Manager. Those of you who are concerned about the security of the model, and that means all of us, or should be, right, because the ROIs are met when you have the right information at the right place, it's shareable, it's scalable. Only then you can get the maximum advantage of it. ERwin Model Manager, as the name goes, it manages your models. Why is the need? Because otherwise I would be keeping my models on my desktop or keeping it on the shared drive someplace. I would know when Joe picks up the model and makes the changes, and sometimes, and many times, actually the changes are simple, small changes. Somebody goes and changes color or font. And believe it or not, when you're so used to looking at your model a certain way and somebody goes and makes the changes, you really can lose your top depending on whether it's Wednesday afternoon or Friday afternoon and how soon you want that information. ERwin Model Manager allows you to do modeling life cycle of a model, of an application, so to speak. So I can have my development, test, and production libraries in there. I can share the information, so I have audit trail. Nobody can say to me, Shubhi, I don't know, I didn't touch it. Yes, you touched it, and you made the change. And yes, we all forget the changes that we made. Model Manager allows me to go in and see the differences between the model today and model 6 months ago or 3 months ago, and go in and then make that knowledge-based action that says, okay, this particular version's of no use. Let me go back to the one that went into test last Wednesday and quickly move to the next step. It also allows me to work with other people on the same model. So there's no need to sit there with 3,000 different data models. You can have your enterprise level model. Isn't that where all of us want to go, nirvana of modeling? And then take the subject areas and start working with the subject matter experts. The process model, I'm not going to spend too much time on it. People either know their process or think they know their process. It's somewhere on the Visio diagrams or on some whiteboard. And the thought always is, my share prices are good. Okay, I'm not talking about today. I'm just saying that my share prices are good. Business seems to be going well. That means my process is going well. And sooner or later you realize, or sometimes even every day you realize, oh, wait a minute, why did this happen? Oh, because certain piece in the process is not working, or we never thought of that particular part. We never thought that since we have one office in Pennsylvania and one in Boston, we never thought that we literally had to go physically have to have some information from Pennsylvania here, and now we're waiting for that information to get here. Model Navigator, for those of you, and I see some names who have many ERwin licenses. And Model Navigator actually helps you if you're using offshore people, if you're using consultants, if you have business needs, business people who need to look at the data model. Model Navigator actually helps you. It gives you read-only ability for the model. And as you can see, Model Navigator can open the models from Model Manager. So if I have a Model Manager or Model Mart kind of a database created on Oracle or SQL Server or Sybase, I can be rest assured that all the 60 people who are using my models, I know exactly who's opening the model, what they're doing to it, and so on. ERwin Data Model Validator is the tool that allows you to validate the model. What is the need? Because I've seen time and again, when you think you know that tool, when you know that model inside out, you realize that there was something that you thought was right is not right. Why? Because you thought that's what you call that data element, and realize when you went through Validator that you made either a spelling mistake or information got lost someplace and the name has been changed. Validator looks at your relationship problems, your constraint problems. It also goes in and gives you normalization errors. So if your job is at the end of the day to create a model that's to the third normal form, Validator helps. Or best yet, what we all do, we start our modeling from reverse engineered model. And in today's environment, when you're buying companies, you're selling companies, you inherit databases, everybody that you work with or that work with database are gone. You reverse engineer the data model, and then you're looking at it because you're going, I just don't know where to start. Where Validator is where you start first, so that will tell you all the problems. Sapphire option is for those who use SAPs or any of the ERPs that allows you to look at your standard cubes or standard information, standard modules, and then build on it as you start your customized development in-house, and it gives you that ability to look at it. Import-Export Bridge is actually part of ERwin, and you might have used that by now. What that allows you to do is through the import-export bridge, you can go in and get the information through meta-integration. And that meta-integration then helps you to bring in information from Excel spreadsheets or your Visios or your Cognos and many, many, many different places where you would have your metadata. And I see Rush, a lot of our customers are loving it, because if you're a business analyst, if your domain is that business and people look up to you for metadata, you have a way of, you can just tell people, okay, just give me an access, I'll take care of metadata, I'm not going to bug you. Well, does that mean extra work for you? Yes. But does that mean you're satisfied with what you're doing? Absolutely, because now you have the information you're looking for. What I just popped up on the screen is Crystal Reports. Believe it or not, ERwin 7.3 gives you one license of Crystal Report. It's free. It's in the price of ERwin. What's that good for? Crystal Reports, many of you have asked us to use Crystal Reports for reporting. So what does that mean? What about other reports that ERwin used to do? They're still there. Don't know until what date they're going to be there, but right now in this build, you do have data browser, you do have HTML reports, the RTB tool, you do have all of those reports, plus you have crystal reporting, and also as you can look at the bottom, it says other ODBC, and what that means is not only you can run an ODBC reporting like a query tool on ERwin current model, but you could also do that with crystal report. Another thing pop-up called ERwin Data Profiler. Some of you might have looked at it and gotten really excited because I can tell you I would have gotten rich every time I talked about ERwin Data Modeler. People would say to me, okay, my design's good, what about my data? And people would laugh. And we laugh it out, but we all understand as we go and embark ourselves for data governance, as we go and do our master data management, we realize, or even data marts, and we realize that data quality is the biggest issue that we have. We have repeating groups, we have overlaps, we have things that it looks the same but it's different, and so on and so forth. Data profiling tool, which is the new addition in CA family of tools, actually allows you to profile cross-profile data. What does that mean? If I have information coming from Dun & Bradstreet, and then I have my own information from SAP, and then I have all of these data marts, one in UK, one in somewhere else. What do I do with this information? Well, I can cross-profile that information. I can look at information which is my parent information, which is my child information. So if I'm going towards master data, remember, analysis part is the most important part of any project, and this is what it is. This tool actually allows you to do that. So again, it's a new product. Those of you who are interested, let us know. We can do a demo for you. But today's webinar is not for any of these tools. Today's webinar is basically to talk about Data Modeler and its enhancement. So the first and foremost is the ODBC-based metadata access. We realized that people always talked about it. They wanted, ODBC can go in and look at every information that's out there. You can create your own query. So you can look at the current model. You can look at the changes that you have done. You can also look at the action log and take that information out of the model into crystal reports or what have you. And that's what it's talking about, SQL Query Tool and crystal reports, and we'll come to that after I finish my slides. Next thing is the forward engineering template editor. What does forward engineering do for me? Well, now the template editor allows you to go in and make the changes in the template. So every single time when you're creating your DDL, it's spitting out the same exact DDL that you're looking for. We also have changes in Teradata Currency. There's universal file close, ERwin bookshelf, and compile HTML help. This was something also that asked by a lot of people because every time, and that also, by the way, people ask me, goes, when are you going to write that ERwin for Dummies book, Shubi? And I keep on saying, well, as soon as I don't start, I have to figure out whether I'm a dummy or not. Because ERwin's changing very quickly. It's giving me a lot more options for me to use, and I just want to make sure that I'm using the right options at the right time because, just like any other project, if you take a little too much to bite on, it's difficult to chew. Complete compare, new options. Now, some of you are sitting there and going, okay, what more new things can you do in complete compare? Complete compare has gotten really, really good now. Not only it gives me that ability to go and filter everything, what it's talking about here is specific to changes in Model Manager, and I'll come to that in a minute. We also have triggers, real versus virtual triggers. There was a time when there were triggers in ERwin. You could only use them at when you were doing forward engineer. You couldn't do anything with them when you reverse engineered anything. But now they are basically, now they've become ERwin objects. Your macros, you have a trigger a language in macros, and again, ERwin, a modeling language. And then database and operating support, and some of them are new and some that we dropped. So let's look at Teradata Currency first. So what we've done here is we have Teradata support, and we don't like to say that we have first tier or second tier or third tier databases, but we all know from the people out there, the users out there, most of our users use Oracle and SQL Server and Sybase, and Teradata is big now, and DB2. So of course, their problems get heard before any other problems because these are the people who keep on asking us to go make the changes. you also know that Microsoft is using ERwin as one of their preferred tools. So when they go and do their Visual Studio Team Suite work, we can do it in collaboration with ERwin. So, of course, those databases get, the first Band-Aids or changes that you require. So we have, for all of the support, we have for forward engineer, reverse engineer, for complete compare. And for Teradata specific, what we've also changed is the currency data type. So if you go in, and let me actually go in and look through the ERwin. So that's what I'm going to do as I talk about something. I'm just going to quickly go into the tool itself. So if I were to go into a logical physical model, I'm going to the physical side. Then I go to the database, and I look at choose database, and I'm just going to go to Teradata. The idea here is to just show you that we have now the different currencies that you can use at. And now it states to me that there are unconverted data types. Some of you may be also using our data type standards mapping file in ERwin. If I already had that file mapped, it wouldn't even tell me this. It would automatically go in and make the change from whatever the data type was to the graphic data type. So when I change it to Teradata, and if I go to column, what I would see now for my general tab, if I'm just going to go to the alphabetical, and if I go in and look at my amount data type, what I may want to go in and see that for my amount, I have different data types that are available for me to go in and use. And the same thing would be at the physical level, at the table level. For Teradata now, we have a lot more options open. You can do your journaling, you can do your permissions, your validations, your comments, your object creation order that was always there. And of course, those of you who work with ERwin, you know we also have the user-defined properties in there. All right, let me go to the next slide here. Okay, all right. ODBC-based metadata access. All right, so ODBC read-only driver is included with base product. So what happens, as soon as you go in and put in, you have your ERwin, you realize that when you implement your ERwin and you go to a data source administrator, you'll see that there are two ODBC drivers that are included. ERwin, that's for the data direct open access, and there's another one for ERwin current data direct open access. Now this one basically is where you can do the ODBC for the model that you're looking at right now. All right, so you have a couple of choices. You can either go in and run it on the current model, or through ODBC you can actually connect to the model in the database. So depending on which one you've fired, which ODBC driver, you'll be able to go in and connect to that information. All right. Again, it's user-controlled activation and deactivation. Basically, that's what it's talking about. It's going to Tools, Option, and Integration. And let me also show you that. So if I was in the model here, if you wanted to turn on the ODBC, you basically go to your options, and when I go through your integration, I could turn on or off my ODBC driver. So that gives me control over what is it that I'm working with. Now, hello?
It's Danielle. Hi. Everyone is saying that they can only see your presentation. They can't see anything else.
Okay.
They can't see when you're actually going into everything in the demo part. They're only seeing the presentation part, your slides.
Okay, now can they see this?
Okay, let's, yes, we can see it now, yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
So, okay, this is what happens when you're in the room by yourself and you're talking to yourself, thinking, la, 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 everybody's looking at it. Let me quickly go through all the things that I talked about very quickly. I talked about data model. And I said to you guys that what you could do is for Teradata, I was showing to you that at the column level, we have made certain changes. Again, for the currency data types, you should see those data types at the Teradata level. I also said that when you're at the table level, there are certain changes that we have made. Again, I'm talking specific to Teradata because now we have, new and improved support for Teradata in there. So those are the things I just showed you, which you might have missed, of course, because I wasn't paying attention. And the next thing I talked about is when you go through your administrative tools, and when I go through my data sources, if I go to System DSN, this is what I was showing you guys, that when ERwin's implemented, you have ERwin Data Direct Open Access, and you also have ERwin Current Open Access. Again, both of those really help you to choose what you want to do, which model you want to go with when you're creating that, that particular report. All right, so let me just stay on my model since I don't think I have too much time. I'm just going to go in and start talking about things that are important to you guys. All right, I also mentioned a query tool. I said ODBC gives you that query tool. So here's the query tool. That's under your tools. I'm using ERwin 7.3. You guys must have realized that. If you're using 7.2, you won't see this tool. Now, with the query tool, when I go in there, as soon as I click, it opens up a window for me. It's a wizard. Now, what I can do with that wizard is I can basically work with information that I can get through this particular model. So first of all, it's an ODBC read-only driver, which is included with the base product. All right, you control what you want to see. It is compliant with your ANSI 92 specification. So you only query syntax or select statements supported at this time. But of course, they're working on it to make it a lot better. What you could also do is any ODBC compliant tool you can use to communicate with this. So in our case, it's Crystal Reports, but you could also go in and use like Bandit Report Writer or Ad-Hoc Query Tool if you have any. You could use those. You could also use Logi XML or those of some of the open source. You could also use your Excel. If you're doing a report, you're not bound now to just use the reporting that we give you out of the box. You could use whatever you choose. Now I'm just going to show you the quick way of doing this query tool. For those of you sitting there and going, okay, Shubi, this is going to be very quick, and then what do I do? Well, don't fear. Now, as I said, there's a lot of information with ERwin, and if you go to your Start Run and you go to CA Program, when you see ERwin, you should see all of the information there. In fact, we also give you a video so that you can go in and run that video on your own time. So here's something that I'm going to show you, a very quick way of creating reports. So when I go to my query report, I go in and open query. Now, these queries are where you have your ERwin implemented. So it should be your program file, CA, Data Modeler, and you have into your ODBC reports, you see your RTB queries. The quickest way of doing it, because if you remember, this is your report template builder, and you have all of these queries. You're used to running these queries, and I could go in and get a very simple one for this particular demo. I can get an ODBC entity report entity attribute column query. And if I click on open, basically, for those of you who love to write their own and do all of that, information's right here. All right. You could go and look at this. It basically gives you your select statement, and again, there is a PDF file that explains every single verbiage that they've used here, what the TRAN allows you to do, how you can go in and write this for those of you who want to start doing it. But as soon as you have this information, I could just go in and say run the report, and very quickly it gives me this report at the bottom. It's giving me the entity name, the attribute name, column name. Now, those of you who love Data Browser, you can still do the same thing with Data Browser. We're not taking that away from you, but here's the query tool that allows me to do it ad hoc queries on my model. Now, I just happen to run it on the model that's open. I could have also opened it under one in the database. And what will happen, of course, if I were to go to the database, it will ask me to connect to that particular database. As you can see here, it says ODBC, and it's asking me to run it on that. But if I don't choose that, if you choose the one that I'm looking at, here's the tool that I have. Now, let me show you. So here was one way of doing it, right, through ODBC. Let me close this. I'm also going to fire up Crystal Reports. And let me know as soon as you don't see this, okay? I'm firing up Crystal Reports. And just because we give you this with the tool, so it makes sense for you to use it, right? If I go click on the report wizard, basically it's asking me, okay, Shubi, what do you want to run the reporting on? If I go in and expand ERwin current, now I can expand on that. There are lots of different schemas. All of the information, again, is where? In that PDF file, all right? But MO is for the model objects. I can go in and get the attribute information, or, you know, actually, let me just go entity, because I get really creative sometimes, and there's no time for that. All right, so if I go to next level, now it says, okay, what are things you want to see through entity? I would like to know the name of the entity. I may want to know the comment of the entity, and of course, you know, pick and choose. I can go look at the information. Now look, it will also have the database-specific information. You can look at the mode, the names, the Oracle-specific things, the physical information, and so on and so forth. Everything starts from entity in ERwin. As you know, entity and table is synonymous. So when I go to next, pretty quickly it says to me that that's the report that it's going to give me, entity name and entity comment, all right? And I can finish it, and basically what it'll do for me, it'll give me the name and the comment. Whatever I just clicked on, it gives me that relationship and that report. Not the best report, but, you know, I've also started just playing with crystal reports, but what I see, I really love it because it gives me that control over the modeling information that I have. And back to my slides, and I'm going to go to my next one. Again, we talked about SQL Query Tools, and we said that built-in, it's very easy. It gives you access to model objects and its properties. So as you saw on the previous screen, there are a lot of things you can go through, and I urge you, before you jump into it and start moving things around, it is pretty intuitive. But if you're used to a certain level of reporting, and this report is not something that you've used, you may want to actually give it some time so that you get better. Modeling session action log, this is something that people asked us all the time. What did I do? What were the changes that I made? Now, that log is actually dumped in a file in ERwin. So you don't really have to take every time to take the action log out there. But if that's what you choose, you already have that choice. All right, it's just showing you the query tool output, how it is. Now let's look at forward engineering template editor. All right, so these are the editor files that we give people. Why? Because we realize that logical data models are great. All right, absolutely great. But if you want to buy in your DBAs using the data modeling tools and start, you know, you can't make their life miserable by asking them to learn something new, or if they have to go in and tweak your DDL every single time, guess what? They're not going to like it. And this was the question that kept on coming to us. People kept on saying, well, you know, is there a better way of doing this information? Well, now we give you these templates so that you can modify your DDL. Better yet, as the name goes, it's template, right? We are big on standardization. Not only we give you ERwin templates themselves, you can create your domains in there, you can create your user-defined properties in there, you can have your metadata at your fingertips. So all people have to do is give you that value. But what we also do here is create templates so you can create that DDL that your DBAs can use. And in this case, what happens is if you use that forward engineering template, the best thing is to buy into your DBA, say to them, hey, I'm giving you a template. Why don't you fix it and give it to me? So every time I will create the same exact DDL that you're looking for. And you may have your specific needs. You may have to put in some kind of owner information in there. You may have to put in common information in there. Whatever your needs are, you can base them and make the changes into forward engineering template. All right, where are these templates? So let me go back to the tool. Now, these are on the physical side of the model. So if you go to Tools and Forward Engineering Template, it goes in and opens the forward engineering template for you. And this could be really, you go look at it, and those of you who are business analysts and, you know, are happy doing your logical data model, you look at it and you go, whatever that means. But I can see some physical, you know, people who are working on the physical side or the developers are saying, this is great. Now I can go in and create my template.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
You got to share your screen again.
Oh, my God. Why is it doing that for me? I actually did a desktop.
Okay, now we can.
So it should be there, right? Okay.
Yep, now we can see it.
Okay.
Starting up now. There we go. Thank you.
Thanks, Daniel.
You're welcome.
All right. So what this is doing there are 4 different areas in here for the template, for this particular query that we are doing, or the forward engineering template. Left-hand side are all of the different templates. For those of you who are with us from ERwin 2.5 days, you've seen some of these templates in different places. You've seen some of these macros in different places. Now, as I said before, these were just the, they weren't the model objects. Now we are trying to put them as model objects so that you can report on them. You can do a lot of different things. If you look at the top here, all right, the icons, it says edit macro categories. So if I go in here, basically, it gives me category views. It says I have all of these categories of macros. For forward engineering, I may have some. For HTML, I may use them. For include, I could go in and specify the ones that I want to use. I could also go to the macro view and then go in and see which macros I'm using for which category. Right? So if I'm using something for forward engineer, I would be able to go in and select those macros for me. Now, I'm going to give you a very, very simple example in here, again, because if you go through this will take itself a couple of days for you to look at it. When you go through the configure icon in here, basically it'll allow you to configure, look at the screen at the back here. There's some ones that, there's some lines that are in blue, some are in black or green or whatever color you can see, some are in red. I could actually go in and make that change. If I wanted to change this particular, I wanted to say, all right, my comment needs to be whatever color or foreground of yellow, and I think this is what Neil Buckwalter talks about in the video too, that you can actually make that change. So when you go from one to the other, you can use different colors so that then when you're looking at your information in the screen, it kind of sticks out, so it's easier for you to say. All right. Let's go to the next one, which is the toggle macro categories. Again, basically what it's doing is it's going through giving you all of the forward engineering macros for you to use so that you can go in and make the changes. Right now, I'm looking at create entity. So what this has done for me, it's giving me the script, right, the template script. It says description, create an entity during schema gen, assume whatever. And what I could do is I can go in and say, for the object create entity, I can go in and say, create my own entity or whatever. If I make the change in here on this screen, for those of you who have used our trigger template before, that once you make a change here, it'll be easier for you to take that change everywhere. I will also urge you to go in and look at the ODBC video that Neil Buckwalter has done, and it again, when you implement 7.3, you can go through that ODBC to go in and make the changes. Remember one thing, you make the change here, it's everywhere. If I were to make a certain kind of change for this particular object in here for my entity, and as opposed to create entity, I go in and say make new, what have you, not only I will see the change here for my model, I can also then go in and look at any of the, because look, this is looking at the current model, right, that I have underneath. I can go in and do the invoice entity or whichever entity I want, and then I can go and look at it. Very powerful. What does that mean? That means be very careful. You make one change, and you click that button, save. There's only so many undos in life you get, whether it's a data model or not. Okay, that wasn't the joke, but that's the reality. So getting back to my slides, and hopefully you can see the slides now. See them? I'm sharing them. Okay, good. So looked at all of the forward engineering. Again, existing macros and new TLX scripting language supported. Now, what is that TLX? That's our trigger language that ERwin has. and the macros, and most of it, or as I said, is a basic SQL that you write for you when you create your DDL. Now it's opened up for your use because a lot of people complain and said, open it up for us so that we can use it. Well, this is the way you can actually start using that information. This just gives you, the engine is just shown to show you how you can take the source context and then make the changes in the model. Macros, again, official introduction of the TLX language. It's a work in progress. Data Model's new template for FE templates. Existing macros are still available, but you can also go in, and the screen that I showed you before, you can go in and look at deprecated. You can go in and look at all of the macros that are there. And then it's accessible via macro toolbox, so you can go look at your domain dictionary dialogs. Model naming option, I don't know how many of you have actually used that, and let me go in and just share and share alike each time because I'm scared now. I don't want to lose, the sharing information here yet. So when you're looking at ERwin here, for some of you know where the macros are. For those of you who don't know, you can always go to help or you can also go to database. When you're doing any of the database-specific changes here, you can go to your triggers. When you're creating your trigger tables or, triggers that you want to use, a lot of times people don't use ERwin triggers, but they may want to go in and create user-defined triggers. And these are not because you want to use them at the database level, but when the scope of the project starts changing quickly, when you're doing your data warehousing, when you're going and trying to discover all of your transformation information, a lot of times these triggers are extremely important because that's where you're documenting what's getting fired, where's the information coming from, where it's going, what column or what row or what data value is being changed. All of that could be seen. Now there's a macro toolbox, and again, all of these macros are here for you to look at. If you click on one, basically it'll show you where the changes are, what is the scope of this particular macro, and how you could use it. All right, let me go back to my slide one more time. And let me open the slides here. All right, and all right. So as I'm looking at my slide, basically it says that's what it does. Also, macros are used in your forward engineering template. And there is a new technical documentation. When you go through, you'll be able to see it with all the information that we provide you. Universal file close. This is something that people like, and I'll come to that in a minute. Basically, if you have more than one model open, there have been times where people have complained because now all of a sudden when you're trying to close, that happens to us, right? You have 5 or 6 or 7 models open, you clicked something, it closed everything, and now you're stranded. Well, now this particular closed dialog box gives you ability to go through different sessions and decide which session you want to close as is and which session you want to go in and save. And please be aware, there's a model name for every model. Get into the good habit of naming your model, not just the file name, but when you go through model and model properties, there's a model naming tab that you should be using so that you can distinguish between one model and the other if for some reason or the other you have different versions of the same model open. There's updated help documentation. There is an ERwin modeling bookshelf, and again, let me show you where it is. So if I go to my Start Program CA and through ERwin.
Should we share screen again?
I wonder if this is because I'm using the Verizon.
I'd be because you're doing the wireless, yeah.
Yeah, I never had to do that before. So what basically it's doing for me is now I can go through this and I basically go to my CA and it's going to show me all the files that I need. And here's for those of you who would like to go in and know a little bit more. you can always call us and we'll do a specific demo for you guys to learn a specific tool. We also have a webinar coming up just on Crystal Reports in a time frame of end of May or June. But here are the technical documentation. You have forward engineering templates, your meta model references, your ODBC reporting guide, and you also have a video that allows you to go through and go select the ODBC data source and also with your forward engineer template schema. All right, let me go back to my slides and share alike. I'm just going to share it just in case. All right, Danielle, what's going on? Okay, so replace deprecated Windows help, full search and indexing capability. Now, if you go through your help, you see all of that information there as well. Oh, sorry, not here, but through ERwin. And then context-sensitive help is also there, and it's always there. As you know, when in ERwin you're working with something, you click on F1, it'll open up the window for you to show you what the changes are. And this is very big, CA ERwin Modeling Bookshelf. So you have a bookshelf by product, by all documentation, and all of this information is available on the CA website, and basically you can just go and navigate through any of the information that you're looking for as you want to move across from one to the other, go in and get that information out. All right, if there are any questions at this time, sorry for all the trouble I was doing. You're probably looking at the screen and going, okay, she got again, she lost again. I'm at the client site and somehow found a room that nobody has bothered me to do this, and I'm using my Verizon wireless. So with that, I open up for questions, if there are any questions.
Okay, we have a couple of questions that came in. One person, Lou had asked before at the beginning of the presentation, what is the ERwin Sapphire option again?
Oh, the ERwin Sapphire option is for any of the ERPs, so it could be your SAP, it could be your PeopleSoft, JD Edwards, Siebel, Oracle Financial. So if you have those implementations at your job, what happens is when you start using your ERPs, yes, there's metadata in there. And you know what? Yes, it's the same metadata, whether you have SAP implementation in Boston, in Pennsylvania, in Brazil. But what happens is people may be using it a little differently than from one to the other. People go in and when I say people, I'm talking about your own employees. You might have done development unknown to each other where you call the elements, the data element something different. And it could be just a difference between a length of a data type, right? But what happens then, if you don't know that metadata beforehand, you could be spending hours on end in transformation in the end. So Sapphire option, what that allows you to do is basically create a repository from your SAP or JD Edwards or whatever. You can create the repository on SQL Server or Oracle or MySQL, and then ERwin becomes a client to that Sapphire repository. So now I can sit here and create, so if you're using SAP BW or just SAP, I can go in and look at every single module. Otherwise, you're sitting there hours on end for the development to help you. As a business, you need to know what kind of data you have. As a business, you need to know what the definitions are. And 9 out of 10 times, people just run with the definitions out of the box, and they're not the definitions that you want people to look at. So this gives you that control that business needs. And what is going on now, and that I see more and more and more, the technology thought that they were on their own, and they're not. They're working for business. So business needs to take control over it, and business has started doing that with Sapphire option. And for whoever is asking that question, call us. We would be glad to do a demo for it.
Okay. Donna had asked a question. Can you use the SQL Query Tool against external databases too?
SQL Query Tool can be used in external databases, and I showed that, and what might have happened was that was the time when I wasn't sharing, just like right now. So give me a minute to share my, okay, did you take away my, I still have the.
Okay, try it now, Shivi.
All right, so if I go to desktop, through ERwin, absolutely, what happens with your query tool is you have a choice of using ERwin Current, which would be my model that I'm looking at right now, Or, and I showed this, or you could also go in, and when you try to connect, it basically now is asking me to connect to the external through that ODBC. Again, you need that ODBC driver, but that's what it's going to do. It'll ask me, it won't even ask me for the, it's showing me username, password, but you may or may not even need that. You can actually go in and do the reporting. Thanks, Donna, for reminding me. All right, any more questions?
Okay, we have one more question. Are there out-of-the-box reports available for Crystal reports that come with ERwin, or do I have to build my own every time?
No, they're absolutely out of the box. And what I was showing you before, they're out-of-the-box reports. There are lots of queries in there. And what you can see here is, let me close this and actually open my Crystal reports and let me know. I think I'm still sharing it, right? Okay, share desktop again, one more time. Okay, when I'm looking at these are the Crystal report that I just created. But if I were to start, if I go to Report Wizard, these are the reports that come out of the box. You have the logical dictionary report, physical dictionary report. I could go to the Report Wizard and use the reporting that's out there that I've created. So when I go to the Report Wizard, here's the report, and you can save that through the Crystal reports, or you could also take your reporting that you've created through the ODBC and run it through the Crystal reports. And I do have, we are planning a complete web session on Crystal reports, like I said, so through CA in the time frame, June time frame. So if you can wait till then, that's fine. Otherwise, give us a call, then we can, set up a demo for you to show you how to do it.
Okay, we have another question. I have Model Manager 7.0. Does 7.3 modeler work on 7.mm?
No, with Model Manager, it's always been whatever version of ERwin you're using, the recommended version of Model Manager is the same. So if I'm using ERwin 7.3, that's what I need to use for Model Manager. Every so often what happens is that they have an intermittent release of build that was just to fix something or the other. You could still go in and use another build for it, but most of the times, 99% of the time, you need the same build or the same version for Model Manager. And those of you who have not gone from 4 to 7 yet, most of the customers have, but those of you who are setting for whatever the reasons may be and we're trying to go to 7, then we will give you a time period where you can keep both. So you can keep your 4.1, you can create your 7.3, and once the complete 7.3 is done, and you can then go in and migrate from 4 to 7.
Okay, Margot has a question. What are the new complete compare options?
Okay, the new complete compare options that I talked about are basically for model merge. And this is for those people who've been using Model Manager. Is a very strong utility in my mind. If you have more than 2 or 3 people doing data modeling, the best ROI that you can get is using a Model Manager. Create that Model Manager database, and then 2 or 3 people can be sharing that information. Now, model merge is suppose I go in and open the model, and I'm working on my customer subject area, and Donna goes in and opens a model, and she's working on, product subject area or purchase subject area for that matter, and there's customer in there. And when we're making changes, if I'm the first person who saves in, it's just like, your any other utility that allows you version control. There's check in and check out. So I checked in the model first. I am the first one to check it in. Again, I check it out. I then check it in. Now, when Donna comes along with her model, there's a 3-way merge because there is a copy in the Model Manager. I had a copy that I had opened that I was working with. Donna has a copy that she's working with. Now, what happens when I go in and save my model, it does complete compare against the model in the database. It says these are the things that you've changed, Shubi. Suppose I go in and change customer name data type to WARCAR2 length 128. And Donna comes back and she just goes in and WARCAR2, but her length is 64. Now, it's going to show it to her and say to her, Donna, Yeah, you made it to 64 from 56. There was somebody else already made it and made the changes to the database to 128. What is it that you would like to do? Now, of course, the tools don't stop us from picking up the phone and talking to each other. But what that tool allows me to see is, okay, if Shubi made that change and she's the subject matter expert, first of all, I shouldn't be even changing that data element. But I was asked to change that data element, so let me ask and see what the changes are. So that's what the complete compare changes are. It basically gives you three-way merge for Model Manager. If that's what you guys wanted to know. If there's somebody who hasn't moved on to 7.3, basically complete compare screen allows you to look at lots of different filtering. It allows you to select your left model, right model, and now with complete compare, you're not subjected to just have, the open model needs to be left. There's nothing like that. You can go in and open model from Model Manager. You can complete compare it to the database, complete compare it to SQL, just like it was before. But what it gives you now, which is more importantly, is the ability to filter out information that you want to see and also go in and create your alter script from there.
Okay, we have another question. At this time, the ODBC is read-only. Is there a plan to make it writable?
That's what I've heard, but we will check and let you know that. Unless Donna tells me that that's what they're going to do. I'm just talking about the product management at ERwin level. But that's what I've heard. That's what they're working on. Right now, it's only read-only for now. And that's what also, actually, if you go to the ODBC information, that's what it says to you. If you go through the PDF, that's what it'll tell you.
Okay. Benjamin has a question. How do I use models from ERwin 3.5 and ERwin 7.3?
Well, Benjamin, okay, I will kindly give you that answer. 3.5 models, if you're still sitting on them for whatever the reasons are, see if you can create if you have ERX files, great, because that's the only way you can pull in that ERwin model into ERwin 7.3. Excuse me. As I was saying before, ERwin, through model integration or MetaBridge, MIMB, that we have, is able to pull in ERX information. That ERX file could be from your Visio models or from your 3.5 ERwin model. We can still read it, but then, that means you have an ERwin 3.5 copy somewhere still, and you can create that ERX file that 7.3 can read. But otherwise, I don't know. I can always talk about a product that we sell, Programmer's Paradise, called Services, where I'll actually come in there and help you with it. But yeah, ERX model, save that 3.5 model as an ERX, and then bring it through the Meta Integration Bridge. Again, that's under File, MIMB, and you should be able to pull that in. If this answer doesn't satisfy you, give us a call at the office, and we'll show you how to do that.
Okay, another question from Carol. What is the specific difference between horizontal and vertical partitioning of tables?
Oh, wow. Okay, let me share my desktop just to answer that question because it's important. In ERwin, when you're on the physical side, and if I go in and select this company table, I get a couple of choices, vertical and horizontal partitioning. When I'm doing a vertical partitioning, what that's going to do for me is it will take this particular table, and if I'm going into two different partitions, and I'm saying, well, the partition 1 name is company 1 and partition name 2, then basically it says go in and select what you want here. So basically I can go in and say, all right, for the company table, I can go in and get all of the other information except for the credit limit and create one table that way. And I could also go in and say create my company 2 with the credit limit information. And when I go to next and finish, basically what ERwin will do for me is it'll create 2 different tables. So the vertical partitioning allows you, and people do this all the time when there's sensitive data or sensitive information in the table, or information that you don't look at day to day. You can save it in a different ways, or if you want different people to have different access to the table. Now, I could just have it saved in such a way that, and you know what? Companies do this all the time on the physical side. ERwin gives you that documentation that says, okay, I've gone in and created something that I don't want to use right now. So basically, what did I do? I created 2 different company tables. Now, we only give you design here. We don't create that code for you. Now, when you want to update information in company 1, you also want to go in and update information in company 2, and that's something that you need to do know yourself. What does this give me? This picture will help my developer to look at it and go, that's the way we store our data, so that's the way I need to go in and write that code. Now, if I don't like what I'm seeing, what this also allows me to do is go in and delete and reverse the transform. So basically, I will go in and say, oops, I made a mistake. That's not what I wanted. I actually want to go in and create copies of company, so I can now go in and save, information A through M in one, and A through M through Z in another one. And as you can see, there's a partitioning criteria that I can also write to A to M, and then I can go in and say this is N to Z. So now what I'm doing is actually saving my data differently. What am I doing? I'm creating copies of the same table. Again, something that like this people did again. This allows you to go in and document it properly, get that information to developers. Everybody can look at this information and know exactly how you're keeping your data in the databases. And you know what? Something like this you need to create once in your enterprise level model if that's how you always save the data. Why do you have to keep on making this every time? Have it in your template model so people can look at this and say, you know what, I'm not going to waste my time on this. People have done this. It's proven that it works, and that's the way my business wants me to do it. Any more questions?
Yes, we have one more from Lisa. Is it possible to save a model diagram to PDF for publishing in documents?
Oh, absolutely. You have that choice. That was, and I didn't talk about it because it's been part of ERwin, but you can just go through your tools and report template builder. And when you're creating a report through the report template builder, when you're creating a report, you do have a choice of taking the report that you're using right now, and instead of HTML, I could always go in and save it to my PDF. And basically what it'll do for me is when it creates the PDF, it'll ask me, what is the information that I'm going to look at, because the way I have set it up, it gives me that control over my reporting. I don't want to look at everything. I just want to look at specific information. And when I go in and click on it, of course, it didn't like what I was doing of making way too many changes, but it's basically going to give me that ability to go in and run the report so I can see, the PDF report in there. And just like anything else, if they want to see how it's done, ask them to give us a call, Danielle, and get their information so we can even do the reporting demo for them. Or as a lot of people may also know, that we also give education that just for a specific function. You don't have to get the 3-day, 5-day ERwin education, and ERwin's pretty mature. It's been 20 years it's in market. So, but you're sitting there and going, okay, reporting is something that I love to know. I want, training on reporting. Give us a call, and we will see what we can do in, whatever time you have. All right?
Okay. Any other questions? Give it a minute or two. Okay. Shubi, if you could just go back into the presentation.
Yeah.
More questions, please. Okay, I'm going to take over control. Okay, as you will be aware from looking at the email that you have got sent out, this is a series of different ERwin webinars. This was the first in the series. The next one is up for May 21st to be for the ERwin and Data Profiling Tool, the MDM, where again she will be going through slides and doing her demos. That is online now, that can be registered for, and then we have one basically every month until September in this series. For more information, as Shubi said, you can contact her. It could be sent to ca.erwin@programmers.com, and it will come directly to her for, as she said, one-on-one briefing or just getting more information if any of your questions were not answered today. For any software or services, product upgrades, as I stated before, we do have a devoted CA team here that could help you anytime. Which can be reached at 800-221-7710, or you can look on our website for any more information that you possibly may need. Thank you for attending our CA ERwin 7.3, and please remember to register for the upcoming webinars in the future. One is next month, and then one every month until September. Shubi, thank you very much, and thank you all for attending.